The Ballad of the Clampets, A Journey Home. Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed. A poor mountaineer, barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude.
Oil, that is.
Black gold. Texas tea. Well, the first thing you know, old Jed is a millionaire. The kinfolk said, "Jed, move away from there." Said, "California is the place you ought to be." So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly
Hills, that is.
Swimming pools. Movie stars. The Beverly Hillbillies. Deep within the lavish confines of their Beverly Hills mansion, a sudden panic gripped the heart of Granny. She rushed to find Jed, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and urgency. She claimed a mountain lion was at Jethro. Granny insisted that if anyone were to tell her that Jethro had had a mountain lion encounter, she would tell them it is true. She had sent Jethro to the roof cellar, and when he did not come back, she went to see what was keeping him. There stood a great big mountain lion licking his chops, and according to her, it had her baby boy right out from under his arm. Jed, ever the calm soul, looked out toward the driveway and asked if the truck was gone. Granny snapped back, saying mountain lions do not eat trucks, they eat flesh-eaters. Jed explained that he figured if the truck was gone, that might tell them what happened to Jethro. Granny was not having it. She repeated that he was bit by a mountain lion in the roof cellar and demanded Jed get his gun and shoot it before it ate the rest of the family. Jed remained skeptical. He noted it was kind of dark in that roof cellar, and what she had seen might not have been a mountain lion at all. Granny was adamant. She insisted there was a wild violet in the roof cellar. Jed pointed out that they had been out here in Beverly Hills for going on 8 years, and the wildest thing they had seen yet was that movie star who lived down the street. Granny asked which one, and Jed described the one with the long blonde hair, wearing wild clothes and jewelry, walking with a wiggle. He told her she knew the fellow. Granny would not be deterred. She demanded to know if Jed was going to shoot the mountain lion or if she had to do it herself. Jed, focused on his breakfast, said that as quick as he had his cereal, he would take a look. Granny was appalled that he could sit there eating cereal at a time like this. Jed admitted it was not easy. Granny lamented that a varmint was eating their kinfolks and Jethro, and then wondered where Ellie was, fearing the lion ate her too. She had sent Ellie out to get the morning mail. Jed told Granny to sit down and get a hold of herself just as Ellie entered with the mail. Granny immediately told Ellie to fetch her father's gun to shoot the mountain lion in the roof cellar. However, Ellie protested, saying she was not going to shoot Herman. When Granny questioned who Herman was, Ellie explained she got him yesterday at the animal farm and he was her new pet. Granny screamed that he was some pet and that he ate her cousin Jethro. Ellie insisted Herman would not do that, but Granny was convinced he did. Ellie pleaded with Jed not to shoot him. Jed told her to do what she had to do, but kinfolks came ahead of Herman. Ellie refused to do it, and Jed realized the only thing he was not going to do for sure was eat his cereal. He decided to give it to Herman instead. Ellie called for Herman to come get his breakfast. Granny was furious, shouting that she wanted no man-eating beast in there. Ellie assured her there was no man-eating beast and asked her to take her just this time as a kid. Granny demanded the vicious killer be taken out of her kitchen. As Ellie and Herman left, Granny insisted she had seen a man-eating beast. Jed sighed, saying that if she fetched him another bowl, she would see a man eating cereal. He then noticed the mail Ellie brought. It seemed somebody sent them the latest copy of the Silver Dollar City News. He wondered who it was, but the paper did not say. Then his eyes widened. He told Granny to guess who was getting married. It was Elverna Bradshaw's daughter. Granny recognized the name, Big Mouth Bradshaw. Jed confirmed that the homeliest girl in the hills had got herself a fellow. Granny did not believe it until Jed showed it to her in black and white. Granny realized what this meant. It meant she was afraid Jed was not going to eat his cereal, but more importantly, they had to get Ellie Mae married right away. Because Big Mouth Bradshaw was 2 days younger than Ellie, if she got married before Jed's daughter, they would be disgraced. Jed did not think so, but Granny insisted Ellie would die of shame. She even claimed Jethro, a boy with a lot of pride, was liable to leave home. Jed joked that he would not leave as long as they had victuals, but Granny said it was no joking matter. They had to take Ellie back to the hills and get her married right away because that was where the men were the marrying kind. Jed wanted to finish breakfast, but Granny insisted there was no time to lose. She told Jed to go next door and ask Mr. Drysdale if he would keep an eye on the place while they were gone. Just then, Jethro walked in. Jed asked where he had been, and Jethro proudly announced he had been to college. It was his first day. He said he fell in with a college crowd that made him realize how much he had been missing. Even though he graduated 6th grade, he felt there was more to learn. Jed was proud. Jethro mentioned the fellows were smart and, as far as he knew, all unmarried. Jed asked if he could fetch home some of those college fellows to meet Ellie. Jethro promised to fetch a whole bunch, so she could take her pick. Jed was pleased, noting there was just enough cereal left for one more bowl, which he gave to Jethro. Meanwhile, at the bank, Milburn Drysdale was on the phone dealing with international millions. He was buying bullion in London and investing in Greek shipping and Dutch oil. Miss Jane Hathaway entered, explaining that the Clampetts were going on a trip and wanted him to keep an eye on the house and the critters. Drysdale initially refused, stating he was a bank president, not a caretaker. He told Miss Jane to tell Granny no. When she hesitated, he admitted he could not afford to argue with them because the $85 million he was investing was actually their money. Granny arrived at the bank and told Mr. Drysdale they were going back home to the hills to get Ellie a husband. Drysdale tried to convince her there were eligible men in Beverly Hills, but Granny was set. She demanded he fetch their money over to them. All of it for Ellie's dowry. Drysdale panicked, realizing that if they took their money out, he would be ruined. He desperately tried to think of a plan, even jokingly threatening to puncture the tires on their truck so they could not leave. Back at the house, Jed was still eating cereal. Granny told him to make that his last bowl so they could pack. Jed suggested they might not have to go if the college fellows Jethro was bringing overworked out. Granny was skeptical, saying he had been beating the Beverly Hills bushes for 7 years and only had an old maid daughter to show for it. She agreed to let Ellie meet them, but insisted they head for the hills immediately after. Jethro arrived with a group of students. One was named Mitch, who had been to 12 colleges. Jed asked what he studied, and Mitch explained they did not study. They protested everything. They were part of an academic revolution, fighting the economic power structure. When Jed asked what his thing was, Mitch admitted they had not told him yet. Ellie appeared, but she was dressed in groovy threads she got at a swap shop. She and the students decided to split to go to a cafeteria break, or rather, to break the cafeteria. Mr. Drysdale and Miss Jane arrived, still trying to stop the move. Granny demanded their $85 million. Drysdale claimed the bank was closed. Jed told Drysdale he was set on going home to get Ellie away from the college boys, whom he found unimpressive. He spoke fondly of the hills, the trout fishing with Jim Owen, the wild turkeys at Thanksgiving, and the dogwood blooms in the spring. He and Granny talked themselves into staying in the hills for an entire year, or maybe forever. Ellie returned, announcing she was now a college girl and showing off a "Don't Draft Me" sign she took from a fellow. Jethro also returned, acting like a soul cousin and using slang that confused Jed. Jethro announced he was not going back to the hills because he was a college man who wanted intellectual freedom and a white-collar job. He did not want to plow fields anymore. Mr. Drysdale, seeing an opportunity, praised Jethro's potential. Jed decided that if Jethro wanted to stay and be a college graduate, they would leave him with Mr. Drysdale. Jed asked Miss Jane to drive the rest of them to the airport to get a plane home. Drysdale's face fell as Jethro called him Dad and suggested Drysdale fix him some victuals while they talked about his potential. The Clampetts were heading home, leaving Beverly Hills behind, at least for a while.